15. So for 15 years, I've gone through a very tortuous and tumultuous cycle of understanding control versus guidance, right? Because there's a difference between guiding someone and yet allowing free will to make choices, or controlling someone and setting much more rigid boundaries, sometimes through, ultimately it's coercion, carrot and stick, right? Yeah, you can't deny that. We all coerce each other into trying to impose our will, yeah? And you're seeing this on a global scale. I'm going to touch on that in a minute, but to get some kind of element of coordinated, harmonious dynamic that creates a certain level of, I guess, unity rather than chaotic entropy, sometimes requires an element of control. And that, as within, so without, right? That works both internally and externally, okay? If you're kind of doing your work and you are observing yourself internally as this entropic, natural creature, right? With all of its vicissitudes and vibrations that are going on within this ocean of consciousness that exists within the body and within the mind and the heart, it can kind of get a little bit overwhelming at times, yeah? And so we place mechanisms in place within ourselves to either control, ignore, suppress, distract from, how we're feeling, thinking, and actually sometimes we even distract ourselves from what we're doing, right? Because if we're doing something that we don't like doing, we kind of distract ourselves through our mind and we're thinking about something else. So our alignment is all over the place at times because we haven't got a grip on who we really are and the power within that, these forces that exist within us, the power within the energies that work through this intelligent animal, this human, so-called human being that we are, okay? And so, from birth we are kind of conditioned. Yeah, you're plugged in, USB port into the back of the head. This is who you are. This is your name. This is your nationality. This is your religion, if you have a religion. This is your language. This is your schooling. This is your whatever. Yeah, it's just part of the program. And the program is designed like the rules of a game, right? Different nations, different nationalities, different family groups, even different individuals are to some extent islands, little games of Monopoly all operating, and then they kind of link into one big game of planet Earth. And there is an element of control over that, okay? Now, depending on kind of what background you come from and where you've potentially studied certain spiritual texts, there is a terminology called an archon, an archon. Some people call them archons, archons, whatever. But an archon is essentially a magistrate, a judge, a controller, a position of authority that has supposedly, and this isn't always true, right, more wisdom than the little children that it is in charge of, okay? And, your parents could be archons, yeah? People who are into angels and things. Angels are archons, archangels, archangels, yeah? They're governors. Demons are archons, right? They govern the elements of the hell realms, right? If you kind of, if you subscribe to that way of thinking. Internally, yeah? Internally. So we're going through a phase, I feel, at the moment where our I guess, issues around being controlled, being told what to do, being mandated, are coming up for us. And, I really do see a huge amount of energy kind of being created at the moment, and conscious attention being placed into the whole kind of division around those that are willing to ultimately trust, right, their archons, and those that don't trust their archons. Okay, so when you look at, and it's funny enough, actually, we're talking about trust, okay, because this is what kind of this topic kind of alludes to. And I'm staring at a blanket which is opposite me, right, in the kind of the room that I use to do some healing. I'm just going to point the camera towards the pattern on the blanket. I hope you can kind of see that. It's kind of a little diamond pattern, okay, expanding inwardly and outwardly, and that's actually, that is like a rune. Well, that is a rune. It's called the rune Ingwaz, and the rune Ingwaz ultimately is about trust, okay? So that's interesting, talking about trust, and I just spot that. And that's how kind of things work. So, you when you're in the flow, when you're in alignment, you've got to kind of look deeper into your surroundings to find hidden meaning, okay? Or hidden reassurance, or hidden confirmation, or hidden potential warnings, okay? Some people call them omens, and not whatever you want, right? But when we talk about trust, ultimately there are people on this planet right now that don't trust what's going on, don't trust the governments, don't trust the truth that's being spouted through various sources regarding this virus, this pandemic, okay? Or even if they do trust that something's happening, they're certainly not trusting the response to what's happening, okay? And, I could do a whole new video on perspective, right? But I'll save that one for another day. But when you don't trust your archons, when you don't trust your leaders, the management, then it becomes very difficult to exist within a society that does trust their management, okay? Because, again, it's all about majority-minority. Yeah, if you have a majority of individuals who are just willing to do as they're told and trust, even if they don't actually believe or consider that what they're being asked to do is correct or right, then you're going to create division, okay? So those individuals that do something, put a mask on, social distance, say yes to mummy and daddy, just to keep the peace, because they know that if they don't keep the peace, if they don't say yes or no, that they could have a consequence to that, i.e. a control measure, a control consequence. If you don't do this, you're going to get fined. Yeah, if you don't do this, you're going to get a smack. If you don't do this, I'm going to take your tea away. If you don't do this, you're not going to do that. And I'm doing this at the moment, right? I'm as a dad, right? As a parent. So I'm looking at this as a psychological archetype, the parental archetype, okay? So I've got the kind of the father archetype in me at the moment who is trying to encourage one of my children to behave in a slightly different way and get a grip on her emotional state a little bit more, so that she doesn't damage people and property, right? It can get a little bit heated at times. So I don't have many tools in the box to do that, because when you sit with someone and try to reason with them and they're not capable of understanding reason for whatever reason, right? Then you kind of got to revert back to the whole kind of carrot and stick thing, because that's essentially how you can coerce an individual to potentially behave in a more appropriate way, which doesn't damage or harm, okay? Is there anything wrong with that? I don't know. I hate it when people try to coerce me, yeah? you know, to do something that I genuinely, for whatever reason, do not believe is right. Okay. And so, you know, to some extent, it kind of makes me a bit of a hypocrite because when you're doing something to control, right, or psychologically manipulate, and then you don't like it yourself, then I guess that's showing you something, right? Yes, it is. It's showing you something. But why do we need to be controlled? Why do we need external means to, I guess, aid us to behave in a certain way? Again, it's down to trust, right? If we don't trust ourselves, if we don't work on our own conscious awareness and don't understand ourselves essentially, or don't have the level of conscious depth and awareness to be able to discern whether our choices, actions, thoughts and feelings, and depending on how we project them into the outer world, what effect that has. You know, does it cause harm? Does it cause unity? Does it cause life enhancing attributes and actions, or is it damaging? You know, all these things. Sometimes the intention isn't necessarily going to create a very positive result, right? Path to hell paved with good intentions. So generally, you're not judged on your intentions. You're judged on the result of what you freaking do, right? So your intentions might have been honourable, but you might have fucked up. Okay, and that's how karma works. Karma's pretty impartial. It doesn't give a toss about what's going on in here. It's just cause effect, cause effect, cause effect, right? And so what comes back and what you're shown is the effects of your choices, and vice versa. Okay, so sometimes when we're controlled through force, ultimately, or coercion, we can trust that it's for our own good, i.e. we can trust that it's a compassionate act which is helping us potentially reduce our negative karma because we haven't got a full grip on ourselves, right? And I place every single human being on this planet in that box, right? Even the archons that are controlling us. Or, if we don't trust that it's for our own good, we tend to push back, we tend to resist. And sometimes that can cause more damage because we, for whatever reason, you know, if we're very stubborn in our approach, and if we're very, or if we're unable to see all sides of an argument and take a different perspective, then we could be walking into another trap. Okay? So, is there an answer to this? No, there's no answer to this, right? There's no answer to learning how to trust, because in the last video I talked about discrimination and discernment. If you want to take the time to educate yourself, understand, look at all sides of an argument, keep an open mind, not get emotionally attached to the drama that is going on, but keep a very objective viewpoint, okay, on ultimately what is life enhancing versus not so life enhancing, then you're going to be in a better position to trust yourself and trust your own choices, rather than having to look at outside authority to tell you what to do for your own good. All right? It's called growing up. Yeah? So we're being given, I feel, an opportunity within this whole drama, this whole crisis, as they call it, if you believe it's a crisis, to grow up a bit. Yeah? And yet, it doesn't really matter what decisions you make, as long as you've done your own due diligence, yeah? Because once you've done your due diligence, you are fully responsible for your choices. Yeah, you've done your due diligence, you've made an informed decision, you therefore take responsibility for those choices that you make. Yeah? And whatever the outcome, that's just karma, right? That's what plays out. So, look at how you feel when certain elements and forces start to surround you and tell you and try to control you in a way which you might feel isn't necessary. Look to how you're feeling in that instant and try to comprehend, I guess, potentially what inner wound there is or what inner trauma there is within you that could be over exacerbating an emotional response that is clouding your objective judgment. Okay? So let's take the example of masks, because it's a big one, and I'm going to have to stop the video.